Captain Park Hyun was drinking his morning coffee when the alarm started screaming across the orbital station. His cup crashed to the floor as he ran to the command center. Outside the massive windows of New Seoul Station, space itself seemed to be tearing apart. Something huge was coming through. The tear in space grew wider and wider. Then it happened. A ship emerged that made Park Hyun's blood run cold. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built. Bigger than their biggest cities. The alien vessel was dark metal covered in strange symbols that seemed to move when he looked at them. "Sir, we're getting a transmission," said Lieutenant Wang, his voice shaking. "Put it on screen." The face that appeared made everyone in the command center step back. It looked like a giant lizard that had learned to walk on two legs. Its eyes were yellow and cold. When it spoke, its voice was like rocks grinding together. "I am Admiral Vextar of the Saurian Empire. Your world has been found. Your world has been judged. Your world will serve." Park Hyun forced himself to step forward. "This is Captain Park Hyun of Earth Defense Force. You are in human space." "State your business," the alien laughed. It was a terrible sound. "Business? Child, we do not conduct business with cattle. We give orders." "You will listen." The screen changed. Now it showed numbers and pictures. Pictures of Earth, pictures of human cities, pictures of human families. Your species has been cataloged, your planet assessed, your resources counted. You have 30 of your days to comply with hegemony law. Park Hyun felt his heart racing. "Comply with what?" "Tribute. 50% of all resources produced by your world each year. 30% of your population for labor assignments. Complete submission to hegemony authority. These terms are not negotiable." "And if we refuse?" Vextar's lips pulled back, showing rows of sharp teeth. "No species has ever refused. Those foolish enough to resist are cleansed from existence. Their worlds become monuments to the price of defiance." The transmission cut off. The massive alien ship just sat there in space above Earth like a dark cloud. Park Hyun stared at it and felt something cold settle in his stomach. Down on Earth, in a laboratory in Seoul, Dr. Kim Ara was watching the same transmission. Her hands were shaking as she rewound the alien's words again and again. She was one of Earth's best scientists, specializing in alien life forms. But they had never found real aliens before. Now aliens had found them, and they wanted to make humans into slaves. Kim Ara started typing frantically on her computer. She pulled up every file about alien contact protocols, every theory about hostile first contact, every plan humanity had made for this day. Because smart people had always known this day might come. The aliens had made one mistake, though. They thought humans would be like all the other species they had conquered. They thought humans would be afraid and helpless. They were wrong about the helpless part. 3 hours later, Kim Ara was in a secure bunker deep under the city. Around her sat the most important people on Earth. President Yoon Hana looked tired but determined. General Lim Jun was studying military reports. Admiral Park Hyun had come down from the station to join them. "How many ships do they have?" President Yoon asked. 50 that we can see," Park Hyun replied. "Probably more hiding somewhere. Each one could destroy our entire fleet." "What about their technology?" The president asked Kim Ara. "Advanced. Very advanced. But not impossible. They use energy shields, plasma weapons, faster than light travel. We understand the principles, we just can't build them yet." "Yet," said a new voice. Everyone turned to look at Professor Choi Min. He was young for a professor, but he was the smartest physicist on Earth. He had been working on theoretical weapons that most people thought were impossible. "What do you mean yet?" President Yoon asked. "I mean we have 30 days. I mean we're not as helpless as they think. And I mean we have something they don't expect." "What's that?" Choi Min smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "We're crazy enough to fight back." Far out in the asteroid belt, Lee Day was listening to the alien demands on his mining ship. He was a big man with rough hands and a rougher voice. He had spent 20 years digging metals out of space rocks. He had seen humans build impossible things in the cold dark between the planets. Lee Day thought about his daughter back on Earth. He thought about his crew who trusted him. He thought about the aliens who wanted to take everything humans had built. Then he started making calls. This is Lee Day calling all miners. This is Lee Day calling all riggers. This is Lee Day calling everyone who's got steel in their spine and fire in their belly. His voice carried across the solar system on hidden frequencies that the aliens couldn't detect. They want our kids for slaves. They want our worlds for themselves. They think we're just going to roll over and let them take everything. More and more voices started answering, miners from Ceres, riggers from the outer planets, ship captains who had spent their lives moving cargo between the worlds. Well, I got news for these lizard bastards. Humans don't roll over. Humans don't quit. And humans sure as hell don't let anyone threaten their children. By the end of the day, Lee Day had 300 ships ready to fight. They weren't warships. They were mining vessels and cargo haulers and repair ships. But they were crewed by humans who had made their living in the most dangerous environment possible. And they were very, very angry. Back in the bunker on Earth, the plans were already starting. President Yoon activated protocols that had been secret for decades. Park Hyun was given command of ships that officially didn't exist. Kim Ara started working on weapons that violated several international treaties. The aliens thought they were giving humans 30 days to accept slavery. Really, they were giving humans 30 days to prepare for war. Outside, the alien ships waited in space like patient predators. They had done this hundreds of times before. They knew how it would end. The humans would try to negotiate. Then they would try to fight. Then they would surrender. It always happened the same way. But Admiral Vextar didn't know about human history. He didn't know about the wars humans had fought against each other. He didn't know about the weapons they had built. He didn't know about the lengths humans would go to protect their freedom. Most importantly, he didn't know that humans had been preparing for this moment since they first looked up at the stars and wondered what might be looking back. The 30-day countdown had begun. But it wasn't counting down to surrender. It was counting down to the day the galaxy learned what humans really were. President Yoon Hana stood before the cameras, her face calm and serious. Behind her hung the flag of United Earth. To the billions of people watching, she looked like a leader trying to find a peaceful solution. My fellow humans, she began, we face a challenge unlike any in our history. I want you to know that we are exploring every diplomatic option. We will not give up hope for a peaceful resolution. The words sounded good. They were meant to. But in the secure bunker below, Yoon Hana was giving very different orders. Activate Protocol Exodus, she told General Lim Jun. Start the deep evacuation immediately. Protocol Exodus was humanity's biggest secret. For 50 years, smart people had planned for this day. They had built hidden bases beyond Pluto. They had stored supplies in places the aliens would never look. They had prepared to move the most important parts of human civilization far from Earth. How long do we have? General Lim asked. 30 days. Maybe less if they get suspicious. General Lim nodded. He had been practicing for this his whole career. The outer colonies are ready. We can move 50 million people if we start now. It wouldn't be everyone. It couldn't be. But it would be enough to make sure humanity survived. While the president spoke on television, Admiral Park Hyun was being shown things that officially didn't exist. Deep under the ice of Pluto's moon, massive doors opened to reveal humanity's true military power. The ships were beautiful and terrifying. They looked like cargo haulers from the outside, but Park Hyun could see the hidden weapons ports. The reinforced hulls, the engines that could push these vessels faster than anything the aliens had seen. How many? He asked the technician showing him around. 200 combat vessels. Another 500 support ships. We've been building them for decades, sir. Every time we launched a mining mission to the outer system, we were really building your fleet. Park Hyun walked through the hidden shipyard and felt hope growing in his chest. The aliens thought humans only had the small patrol ships they could see around Earth. They had no idea about this. What about crews? Every person here volunteered for a one-way mission, sir. They all know they might never see Earth again. They all said yes anyway. That was humans for you, Park Hyun thought. Crazy brave when they needed to be. Dr. Kim Ara was having the time of her life even though the world was ending. She had been given unlimited resources and told to build the impossible. The weapons she was designing would have scared her a week ago. Now they just seemed necessary. The quantum tunnel bombs are theoretical, Professor Choi Min warned her as they worked. Everything was theoretical until someone built it, Kim Ara replied, not looking up from her calculations. How long until we can test a prototype? Maybe 10 days. If we don't blow up the lab, and if we do, Choi Min grinned, then at least we'll know it works. They were both running on coffee and determination. Around them, the best scientists on Earth were working on projects that had been impossible dreams just days before. Weapons that could punch holes in space itself. Viruses that could infect alien computer systems. Shields that could turn enemy fire back on itself. The aliens had given humans 30 days to surrender. Instead, humans were using those 30 days to become more dangerous than they had ever been before. On Mars, the evacuation was disguised as routine supply runs. To anyone watching, it looked like normal traffic between the colonies. But General Lim Jun knew better. Critical personnel were being moved to safe positions. Weapons were being hidden in places the aliens would never think to look. The children go first, he told his staff. Then the scientists, then the engineers. Everyone else volunteers to stay. Too many people volunteered to stay. That was the problem with humans. When things got dangerous, they wanted to fight instead of run. "Sir," his aide said, "we're getting requests from the asteroid miners. They want to know if we need help." Lim Jun smiled. "Tell Li Day that we'll take all the help we can get." Out in the asteroid belt, Li Day was turning his mining operation into something the aliens would never expect. Mining ships weren't built for war, but they were built to move very heavy objects very fast, and in space, anything moving fast enough became a weapon. "How many rocks can we move?" he asked his chief engineer. "All of them, boss. Give us a target and we'll put a mountain through it." Li Day looked at the tactical display showing the alien fleet positions. "I'm thinking we give them a meteor shower they'll never forget." His miners were good people. Hard workers who had spent their lives in the most dangerous job humans could do. They had families back on Earth, but they knew how to take risks for the people they loved. "Boss," called out one of his crew chiefs, "the deep space array is picking up something weird." "What kind of weird?" "More alien ships. A lot more. They're coming this way." Li Day felt his blood run cold. The 50 ships above Earth were just the beginning. The real alien fleet was still coming. How long? Maybe 20 days, 20 days. 10 less than they thought they had. Li Day grabbed the comm unit. "This is Li Day to all human forces. The aliens have reinforcements coming. We need to move up our timeline." Back on Earth, the message reached the bunker just as President Yoon was finishing another speech about diplomatic solutions. When the cameras turned off, her calm mask slipped. 20 days. Admiral Park Hyun repeated. "Can we be ready?" "We have to be," Professor Choi Min said. "The tunnel bombs will be ready in 15 days. The fleet can launch in 10. The evacuations?" President Yoon asked. "Ongoing," General Lim replied. "We're getting people out as fast as we can without being obvious about it." Dr. Kim Ara was studying the alien ships through telescopes and sensors. "They're not taking us seriously," she said. "They think we're just panicking. They don't know what we're really doing." That was humanity's advantage. Aliens had conquered hundreds of worlds, but they had never conquered a world full of humans. They didn't understand how humans thought, how humans planned, how humans could smile and nod while preparing to stab their enemies in the back. "What's our story going to be?" President Yoon asked. "Desperate negotiations," Admiral Park Hyun suggested. "We're trying to buy time while we figure out how to surrender properly." "Perfect. Let them think we're helpless. Let them think we're broken. Let them get comfortable." The aliens were comfortable. Admiral Vextar was enjoying himself on his flagship. This was always his favorite part of a conquest. Watching the primitive species scramble around like insects before accepting their fate. His sensors showed increased activity throughout the human system. But that was normal. Species always got busy when they learned they were about to become slaves. They tried to hide their valuables. They tried to contact other worlds for help. They tried everything except the one thing that might actually work. They never tried to fight back properly. Humans seemed especially pathetic. Their leaders kept talking about diplomacy and peaceful solutions. Their military was tiny and primitive. Their technology was centuries behind the hegemony. In 20 days, when the main fleet arrived, this would all be over. The humans would kneel, just like all the others. Vextar had no idea that humans had spent those 20 days turning their entire solar system into a weapon pointed at his head. He had no idea that humans were very good at pretending, to be weak while getting ready to be strong. Most importantly, he had no idea that humans had been preparing for this fight since before he was born. The countdown continued. But now it was counting down to the day the Saurian Empire learned the difference between conquering a world and conquering Earth. Admiral Park Hyun put on his best diplomatic uniform and practiced looking defeated in the mirror. In 6 hours, he would meet with the alien admiral aboard their flagship. He needed to look like a man who had given up hope. It was harder than it sounded. Park Hyun felt more hopeful than he had in weeks. "Remember," President Yoon told him over the secure comm, "you're a desperate military leader looking for any way to save his people. You're willing to negotiate, but you're not very good at it." "Got it," Park Hyun replied. "Desperate, defeated, and a little stupid, but not too stupid. We need them to believe we're worth keeping alive." The shuttle ride to the alien flagship was the longest 30 minutes of Park Hyun's life. The Saurian ship was even bigger up close. Its hull was covered in weapons that could crack planets. Its engines could push it between stars in days. But Park Hyun had spent the last 2 weeks learning about this ship. Thanks to passive scans and careful observation, humans now knew more about Saurian technology than the aliens realized. Admiral Vextar met him in a chamber that was clearly designed to intimidate. The ceiling was high and dark. The walls showed images of conquered worlds. Alien guards with plasma rifles stood at attention. "So," Vextar said, his voice echoing in the large room, "the human leader comes to negotiate." Park Hyun let his shoulders slump a little. "We need more time. 30 days isn't enough to organize the tribute you've demanded." "Time?" Vextar laughed. "You think this is a negotiation? You think you have choices?" "Please," Park Hyun said, letting his voice shake slightly. "My people are scared. They don't understand what's happening. If you could just give us 60 days, your people will learn to understand. Fear is an excellent teacher." While they talked, Park Hyun's uniform was recording everything. Hidden sensors mapped the ship's interior. Microtransmitters uploaded viruses into the alien computer networks. The Saurians thought they were intimidating a primitive human. Really, they were letting a spy into their most secure facility. Dr. Kim Ara was having the meeting of her career with the Saurian science officer. The alien who called himself Teclon was condescending and arrogant. He treated Kim Ara like a child showing off a finger painting. "Your science is crude," Teclon told her as she showed him falsified research data. "Your understanding of physics is barely adequate." "We're eager to learn," Kim Ara replied humbly. "Perhaps you could help us understand our mistakes?" Teclon loved explaining why humans were wrong about everything. He showed her Saurian physics texts. He demonstrated their computer systems. He even let her access their research databases. He had no idea that Kim Ara understood every word. Humans had been studying alien mathematics for decades, preparing for this moment. While Teclon lectured her like a professor talking to a slow student, Kim Ara was uploading viruses that would turn their own technology against them. "Your weapons are particularly primitive," Teclon said, pulling up displays of human military equipment. "These chemical explosives are inefficient. These kinetic weapons are crude." "You're absolutely right," Kim Ara agreed. "We have much to learn." What Teclon didn't know was that Kim Ara was learning. She was learning the exact frequencies their shields operated on. She was learning the power signatures of their weapons. She was learning everything humans needed to know to destroy them. On Mars, General Lim Jun was staging the most convincing defeat in military history. His surrender ceremony was broadcast throughout the solar system. Saurian observers watched as human soldiers laid down their weapons and accepted alien authority. It was a beautiful performance. The soldiers looked broken and defeated. The equipment they surrendered was real. The bases they handed over actually existed. What the aliens didn't know was that everything they were seeing was obsolete. The real weapons were hidden. The real soldiers were already in position. The real bases were buried so deep that alien sensors couldn't detect them. "Sir," his aide whispered during the ceremony, "the deep strike teams are in position." "Good," Lim Jun replied quietly. "Tell them to wait for the signal." The aliens thought they were watching humanity surrender. Really, they were watching humanity move into final attack position. Out in the asteroid belt, Lee Day was giving the performance of a lifetime. His desperate broadcasts were intercepted by alien intelligence just as planned. "Please," he begged over the open channels. "We're just miners. We don't want to fight anyone. We just want to go home to our families." The aliens listened to these transmissions and felt satisfied. The humans in the outer system were panicking, just like all the other species they had conquered. Soon these miners would be working in Saurian facilities, digging up resources for the Empire. What the aliens didn't know was that Lee Day's desperate miners had spent 2 weeks turning the asteroid belt into the largest weapons platform in human history. Every rock that could be moved was now positioned along the aliens' expected retreat routes. Every mining ship had been converted into a kinetic bombardment platform. "Boss," his chief engineer whispered, "we've got 300 rocks ready to fly, each one moving fast enough to punch through a battleship." "Good," Lee Day whispered back. "Remember, we only get one shot at this." Professor Choi Min was in his laboratory, putting the finishing touches on weapons that broke the laws of physics. The quantum tunnel bombs were finally ready. They were beautiful in a terrifying way, small devices that could fold space-time in on itself. "Are you sure they'll work?" his assistant asked nervously. "No," Choi Min admitted, "but we're about to find out." The test had to be secret. The aliens couldn't know what humans were really capable of. So the first quantum tunnel bomb was detonated in an empty region of space, far from any observers. It worked better than anyone had hoped. A sphere of space simply vanished, taking everything inside it to nowhere. No explosion, no debris, just gone. "We can take out their biggest ships," Choi Min reported to the command bunker. "But we only have 6 bombs. We need to make them count." President Yoon Hana was giving her final diplomatic speech. To the watching galaxy, she looked like a leader making one last desperate plea for peace. "We ask only for mercy," she said, her voice carrying across the solar system. "Humanity has always believed in finding peaceful solutions to our problems." The aliens loved this speech. It confirmed everything they believed about humans: weak, naive, helpless. What they didn't know was that President Yoon's words contained hidden code phrases. To human forces throughout the solar system, she wasn't begging for mercy. She was giving final attack orders. "We have always been a species that adapts to changing circumstances," she continued. The phrase meant, all units move to final positions. "We believe in the power of cooperation between different peoples." That meant, coordinate your attacks for maximum effect. "We hope that tomorrow's dawn will bring a brighter future for all sentient beings." That meant, attack begins at dawn. The aliens thought they were hearing surrender. The humans knew they were hearing a declaration of war. On the 29th day, Admiral Vextar felt supremely confident. The human leaders had agreed to formal surrender ceremonies. Their military was beaten. Their civilians were terrified. Everything was going exactly as it always did. "Tomorrow," he told his officers, "we will begin the harvesting. This world will serve the Empire for 1,000 years. His officers laughed and agreed. They had done this so many times before. Humans were no different from any other primitive species. But in the cold dark between the planets, something was moving. Admiral Park Hyun's hidden fleet was dropping out of stealth mode. Lee Dae's converted mining ships were accelerating toward attack positions. General Lim Jun's real soldiers were emerging from hiding. Dr. Kim Ara's viruses were spreading through Saurian computer networks like cancer. Professor Choi Min's impossible weapons were armed and ready. President Yoon Hana's evacuation had moved 50 million humans to safety. Everything was ready. The aliens expected dawn to bring humanity's formal surrender. Instead, dawn would bring them something they had never experienced in all their centuries of conquest. Dawn would bring them a war with humans. And humans, as they were about to learn, were very good at war. Dawn came to Earth like it always had. The sun rose over blue oceans and green continents. Birds sang in the trees. Children woke up in their beds. But in space above Earth, dawn brought something the galaxy had never seen before. It brought humanity's answer to the demand for tribute. Lee Dae fired the first shot. His voice crackled over the comm channels as 300 asteroids began moving toward the alien fleet. "This is for my daughter," he said quietly. Then louder, "This is for all our children. Fire everything." The asteroids had been accelerating for hours, building up speed in the dark where alien sensors couldn't track them properly. Now they were moving at a significant fraction of light speed. Each rock had enough kinetic energy to shatter a mountain. Admiral Vexitar was drinking his morning stimulant when the first impacts hit his rear guard. 3 Saurian destroyers simply vanished in balls of superheated plasma. The asteroids hit so hard they turned metal into gas. "What?" Vextar started to say. Then his flagship shuddered as more rocks slammed into their shields. "Sir," his tactical officer screamed. "We're under attack." "Kinetic bombardment from the asteroid belt." "Impossible," Vextar snarled. "Those are miners, not soldiers." "Tell that to the vengeance of stars, sir." She just took a direct hit. On his tactical display, Vexitar watched one of his heavy cruisers break apart as a nickel-iron asteroid punched straight through its center. The humans were using their industrial equipment as weapons. It was crude, but it was also devastatingly effective. "Return fire," he ordered. "Destroy those mining ships." But when his weapons officers tried to target the miners, they found nothing but empty space. Liday's people had fired their rocks and immediately jumped to new positions. They were using the asteroid belt itself as cover, hiding behind chunks of rock too small for alien sensors to distinguish from natural debris. "They're using guerrilla tactics," his tactical officer reported, sounding shocked. Vexitar couldn't believe it. No species had ever used guerrilla tactics against the hegemony. Most civilizations barely understood the concept of asymmetric warfare. Then Admiral Park Hyun's fleet dropped out of stealth. The human ships had been hiding beyond Pluto for weeks, their energy signatures masked by the cold radiation of deep space. Now they appeared like ghosts becoming solid, their weapons already charging. "Unknown contacts," the Saurian sensor operator called out. 200 ships, human configuration, moving to attack formation. Vexitar stared at his displays in disbelief. The humans weren't supposed to have 200 warships. Intelligence said they had maybe 30 patrol boats total. "Those are cargo haulers," he said. "Mining ships. They can't possibly—" The first volley from Park Hyun's fleet cut him off. Railguns that had been disguised as cargo handling equipment opened fire. Magnetic accelerators pushed chunks of dense metal at velocities that made the asteroid bombardment look slow. The rounds punched through Saurian shields like they weren't there. The aliens had never faced weapons that hit this hard. Their shields were designed to stop energy weapons and normal projectiles, not hypersonic tungsten penetrators. "Shields failing on decks 7 through 12, reported his damage control officer. "Hull breaches throughout the ship. How are they penetrating our shields?" Vexitar demanded. His science officer was frantically checking readings. "Sir, they're using kinetic weapons at velocities we didn't think were possible for their technology level. Our shields can't deflect solid matter moving at these speeds." What the aliens didn't know was that humans had been studying their shield technology for weeks. Dr. Kim Ara's intelligence gathering had revealed exactly how Saurian defenses worked. The human weapons had been specifically designed to exploit those weaknesses. Speaking of Dr. Kim Ara, her computer viruses were finally activating. Throughout the Saurian fleet, navigation systems began reporting false positions. Weapons targeting computers started locking onto friendly ships instead of enemies. Life support systems began cycling through emergency shutdowns. "Sir," the communications officer called out in panic, "our computers are malfunctioning. We're showing weapons locks on our own vessels." "Override the targeting computers," Vexitar ordered. "I can't, sir. The system won't respond to commands." On the destroyer Claw of Dominion, the main guns swiveled toward their own flagship and opened fire. The crew watched in horror as their weapons attacked their allies. "It's a virus," the ship's tech specialist reported. "Something is in our computer networks. It's turning our systems against us." The virus was Kim Ara's masterpiece. She had spent 2 weeks studying Saurian computer architecture during her meetings with their science officer. Now that knowledge was paying off. The aliens' own technology was becoming their enemy. But the real surprise was still coming. Professor Choi Min's voice came over the secure human channels. "Quantum tunnel bombs armed and ready, targeting the 3 largest enemy vessels." "Fire," Admiral Park Hyun ordered. 3 small objects, each no bigger than a briefcase, materialized near the Saurian dreadnoughts. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then space began to fold. The bombs didn't explode in any conventional sense. Instead, they created tears in the fabric of space-time itself. Spheres of twisted geometry appeared around the alien ships. Everything inside those spheres simply ceased to exist. The dreadnought Eternal Conquest was there one moment and gone the next. Not destroyed, not vaporized, just gone as if it had never existed at all. "What weapon was that?" Vexitar screamed at his science officer. I don't know, sir. The physics readings don't make sense. It's like they tore a hole in space itself." The science officer was right. The quantum tunnel bombs used principles that the Saurian Empire considered impossible. They had conquered 1,000 worlds and never encountered anything like this. That was when General Lim Jun's Marines hit the Saurian command ship. The boarding pods looked like escape capsules to alien sensors. By the time the Saurians realized they were full of human soldiers, It was too late. Human Marines had trained their entire lives for fighting in zero gravity and confined spaces. They were used to high-stress combat in dangerous environments. Most importantly, they had studied Saurian anatomy for weeks and knew exactly where to hit their enemies. The aliens were bigger and stronger than humans, but they had never fought anyone who fought back effectively. Their experience was with terrified civilians and token resistance from primitive militaries they weren't prepared for. Professional soldiers who had been planning this assault for months, boarding parties on decks 5, 7, and 12, reported Vextar's security chief. They're advancing toward the command center. Stop them, Vextar ordered. We're trying, sir, but they're using weapons we've never seen before. Some kind of explosive projectiles that punch through our armor. The humans were using modified railguns designed for ship-to-ship combat. In the narrow corridors of the Saurian vessel, these weapons were devastatingly effective. Human soldiers could punch holes through bulkheads and hit enemies around corners. But it wasn't just their weapons that made them dangerous. It was their tactics. Human military doctrine had been developed through centuries of warfare against other humans. They knew how to coordinate attacks. They knew how to use cover and concealment. They knew how to turn the enemy's advantages against them. The Saurians fought like they were hunting animals. The humans fought like they were soldiers. Sir, General Lim Jun's voice came over the comm. We've reached the command deck. Admiral Vextar, I believe you wanted to meet our leadership. Admiral Park Hyun stepped through the blast doors of the alien command center. His uniform was scorched and his face was hard as stone. Vextar looked around at his ruined ship. Half his crew was dead. His fleet was being systematically destroyed. His most advanced technology was being turned against him by primitives who shouldn't have been able to understand it. This is impossible, he said. You're supposed to be miners and farmers. You're supposed to be weak. Park Hyun smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Admiral Vextar, let me explain something about humans. We're not miners and farmers because that's all we can be. We're miners and farmers because that's what we choose to be when no one is threatening us. He gestured toward the tactical displays showing the ongoing battle. When someone does threaten us, we become something else entirely. What are you? Vextar whispered. We're the species that spent 100,000 years fighting each other before we learned to fight together. We're the species that built weapons of mass destruction before we built reliable space travel. We're the species that turned our entire solar system into a fortress because we knew someone like you would eventually show up. Park Hyun leaned closer to the alien admiral. But most importantly, we're the species that's about to teach your empire what happens when you try to make humans kneel. Outside, the battle was turning into a rout. The Saurian fleet was larger and more advanced, but they had never faced an enemy that fought this intelligently, this viciously, this effectively. They had spent centuries conquering species that gave up when the fighting got hard. They had never conquered a species that got more dangerous the harder the fighting became, and the fighting was about to get much harder. Admiral Park Hyun stood in the ruined command center of the Saurian flagship, looking down at Admiral Vextar. The alien's yellow eyes showed something humans had never seen there before. Fear. You want to know why you failed? Park Hyun asked, his voice calm despite the battle raging around them. You made one crucial mistake. You assumed we were like all the others. Explosions rocked the ship as more human boarding parties fought their way through the corridors. The lights flickered and alien computer systems continued their rebellion against their creators. Every species you conquered before us was peaceful, Park Hyun continued. They were unified. They trusted that the universe was basically fair and that reasonable people could find reasonable solutions to their problems. Vextar tried to stand, but General Lim Jun's Marines kept their weapons trained on him. You are primitives, he snarled. Your technology is inferior. Our technology is different, Park Hyun corrected. We built it specifically to kill people like you. Do you know how long humans have been preparing for this day? He gestured toward the tactical displays still functioning on the alien command center. The Saurian fleet was being systematically destroyed. Ships that had conquered star systems were being torn apart by converted mining equipment and disguised cargo haulers. We've been ready for you since we first looked up at the stars and wondered what might be looking back. Every human child grows up hearing stories about monsters from space who want to hurt us. We've been having nightmares about you for generations. Dr. Kim Ara's voice crackled over the comm system, not just to the human forces but broadcasting on all Saurian frequencies. Attention, "All ships of the Hegemony Fleet," she announced from her laboratory on Earth. "This is Dr. Kim Ara of Earth's Xenobiology Department. I want you to understand what's happening to you." Her transmission was reaching every alien vessel in the solar system. It was also being recorded by long-range sensors and would eventually spread to every corner of the galaxy. "We've uploaded our complete military database to your computer networks. Every tactic we use today, every weapon design, every strategy for fighting technologically superior enemies is now available to download." Admiral Vextar's face went pale. "What are you saying?" "She's saying," Park Yun replied, "that we're sharing. Every species you've enslaved now knows exactly how to build the weapons that are tearing your fleet apart right now." Kimara continued her broadcast. "The quantum tunnel bomb specifications are attached to this transmission. The kinetic weapon designs are included. The computer virus code is freely available. Any species that wants to fight the hegemony now has the tools to do it." Professor Choi Min's voice joined the broadcast from his laboratory. "We've also included detailed technical manuals on how to modify civilian equipment for military use. Mining ships, cargo haulers, construction equipment. Everything can be turned into weapons if you know how to do it. And we're very good teachers," Kimara added. Throughout the Saurian fleet, alien communications officers were frantically trying to block the transmission, but it was too late. The signal was being rebroadcast from hidden human relay stations throughout the solar system. It was already spreading beyond their ability to contain. Li Day's voice came over the comm channels from his command ship in the asteroid belt. "This is Li Day, speaking for the miners and workers of the outer system. I got a message for the Saurian Empire." His voice was rough with emotion and exhaustion. Around him, the battle continued as his converted mining ships systematically hunted down alien vessels trying to escape. "You came here thinking we were easy prey. You thought humans would roll over and accept slavery, because that's what everyone else did. You were wrong." Another Saurian cruiser exploded in the distance as one of Li Day's asteroids found its target. The alien ship had been trying to flee toward the edge of the solar system. "We don't roll over. We don't give up. We don't accept that might makes right. When someone tries to hurt our families, we hurt them back. When someone tries to take our freedom, we take their ships. When someone tries to make us kneel," General Lim Jun added from the captured command center, "we teach them why that's a bad idea." President Yoon Hana's voice joined the broadcast from her bunker on Earth. Her words were being transmitted not just throughout the solar system, but to every corner of the galaxy where sentient beings might be listening. To every species currently under hegemony rule, to every world that dreams of freedom, to every person who has ever been told they must serve. We are uploading our location coordinates to this transmission. The implications of her words hit Admiral Vextar like a physical blow. "You're calling them here," he whispered. "When the rebellions start," President Yoon continued, "when your empire begins to crumble, when your former slaves decide they've had enough, they'll know exactly where to find friends. We're not just defeating your fleet," Admiral Park Hyun told Vextar. "We're ending your empire. Every species you've conquered is about to learn that the hegemony can be beaten. More importantly, they're about to learn exactly how to do it." The alien admiral looked around at his destroyed command center. His fleet was gone. His technology had been turned against him. His empire's greatest secrets were being broadcast to their enemies. "Why?" he asked. "Why do this? You could have negotiated. You could have found a compromise." Park Hyun shook his head. "You still don't understand. There is no compromise with slavery. There is no negotiation with tyranny. You came here demanding that we kneel, and we decided to teach you something instead." "Teach us what?" "That some species don't kneel. Some species fight back, and some species are very, very good at fighting." The final phase of the battle was ending. The last Saurian ships were either destroyed or fleeing toward the edge of the solar system. Those that tried to escape found Li Day's miners waiting for them. Those that tried to surrender found human marines ready to accept their capitulation. Dr. Kim Ara's voice came over the comm one last time. "The complete technical specifications for all human weapons used in this engagement are now available for download. We've also included historical data on human military tactics, strategic thinking, and weapons development. Consider it our gift to the galaxy," Professor Choi Min added. "Use it well." Admiral Vextar slumped in his command chair, finally understanding the magnitude of what had happened. The hegemony hadn't just lost a fleet. They had lost their monopoly on military superiority. Every enslaved species now had access to weapons and tactics that could challenge their oppressors. Your empire is finished, Park Hyun told him. Not because we destroyed your ships, but because we gave everyone else the knowledge to destroy them too. The galaxy will burn, Vextar said. The galaxy will be free, Park Hyun corrected. There's a difference. General Lim Jun stepped forward. Admiral Vexitar, you are now a prisoner of war. You'll be treated according to the laws of civilized warfare. That's something humans believe in, even when fighting monsters. You'll be put on trial for crimes against sentient beings, President Yoon's voice added over the comm, but you'll get a fair trial. That's also something humans believe in. As the last alien ship fell silent, Lee Day's voice came over the general comm one final time. This is Earth Control to all human forces. Mission accomplished. The solar system is secure. Cheers erupted from human ships throughout the system. On Earth, people came out of their shelters to see the alien fleet burning in their sky. But Admiral Park Hyun wasn't celebrating yet. This was just the first wave, he told his staff. The main hegemony fleet is still out there. Let them come, General Lim Jun said grimly. By the time they get here, half the galaxy will be in revolt. He was right. Even as the battle ended, long-range sensors were detecting unusual activity throughout hegemony space. Rebellions were already starting on distant worlds. Species that had been enslaved for generations were suddenly finding the courage to fight back. They had weapons now. They had tactics. Most importantly, they had hope. Admiral Vextar looked up at the humans who had defeated him. You've doomed yourselves, he said. The Emperor will not let this stand. He'll send fleets that will blacken your skies. Admiral Park Hyun smiled. Let him try. We'll be ready. We've been ready for centuries, President Yoon added. We just wanted to make sure the rest of the galaxy was ready too. Now they are, Dr. Kim Ara concluded. Now everyone knows that the hegemony can be beaten. Now everyone knows how to do it. The message was already spreading faster than light, carried by automated probes and hidden transmitters. Soon, every enslaved world would know that Earth had faced the Saurian Empire and won. More importantly, they would know exactly how to win their own freedom. The Empire had demanded tribute from Earth. Earth's response was echoing across the galaxy. Run while you still can.